Movie Recap: The Antlers. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to go over the recap of a supernatural horror film, Antlers. The movie starts in a small town in Oregon where Frank Weaver and his friend Kenny Glass work in an abandoned coal mine. Frank's kids believe that their father is working, but it is just a meth lab that Frank is operating. He enters the lab with his partner and finds several items hung up from the ceiling used to ward off evil spirit. There the two men hear a low growling noise and are soon attacked by an unseen evil spirit Wendigo which kills Kenny and mauls Frank. The mythical monster bite causes Frank to slowly transform into another Wendigo. Lucas, Frank's oldest son, a 12-year-old whose mom died a while ago, believes that his feral father can be saved if he completes the metamorphosis. He secretly keeps Frank captive inside their remote house, partly to protect his 7-year-old brother, Aiden, who also begins his transformation after Frank attacks him. The scene changes when a recovering alcoholic, Julia Meadows, known as Jules, returns to Kispers Falls after the death of her father to work as a local elementary school teacher after having left town 20 years earlier to escape an abusive father. 3 weeks later, Julia is giving a lecture on fables. She calls on Lucas, but he doesn't reply to her and gets frequently bullied by a kid named Clint Owens. Lucas returns home and he is seen in his room as something pounding from behind a locked door, snarling ferociously. The first look of transformed Frank is shown in this scene through the keyhole of the door behind which he is locked. Lucas also kills animals like skunks to bring home and feed to the entity, or his father. When he visits his father, the Wendigo, upstairs, he sees a glowing heart inside Frank's chest. Julia, for the time, moves in with her brother, Paul, the town's current sheriff, which arises multiple arguments because of their traumatizing childhood. When Paul confronts Julia about how she abandoned him for California, leaving him in the care of a monster much more prosaic than the Wendigo, she justifies her leaving by citing what her father did to her. To which Paul replied that she had no idea what he did to him, with a haunted look in his eyes while he keeps a cup of coffee shaking. Jules feels guilty about leaving her brother with their father and apologizes to him. A recurring motive when Julia's character finds herself alone with her trauma is her father. He walks menacingly towards her in the basement, beats and gropes her in her bedroom, and sleeps naked with her stuffed toy in her bedroom. When Julia is reminded of those horrible thoughts in the house, she takes down family photos. She is horrified and startled by her father's deeds as evidenced in the scene where she plays the piano and Paul walks up to her. Julia takes an interest in Lucas's well-being when she notices the disturbing drawings and his strange story about a family of hungry bears becoming monsters. While Julia tries to investigate more about Lucas's home life and bonds with him, she becomes concerned that Lucas and his brother might also come from a broken family, to which she feels empathy and bonds a connection with the boy because of the shared traumas. In the next scene, a Native American and former sheriff, Warren Strokes, find half of Kenny's mauled corpse while hiking in the woods. He reports it to Paul, who relays it to Julia. Paul mentions having busted Frank for drugs before, but never expected he might do something violent. The police later find another half of the corpse in the coal mine where the attack happened. Sheriff Strokes collects an antler and notes native wards hanging throughout the mine. Lucas's teacher, Julia, shows his unsettling drawings to Principal Ellen Booth and expresses concerns to her. On hearing this, Ellen suggests Julia not to pry into Lucas's home life, but Julia, being suspicious, stops by Weaver's house to check on him, but stops when she hears a low growling noise. With her concerns growing, Julia suggests to Ellen that she go to the Weaver's house and talk to Frank, to which Ellen agrees. Upon entering the home, Principal Booth finds the door unlocked and finds Aiden in a disheveled state, and suddenly Frank savagely slaughters Ellen. This causes him to undergo a painful transformation and something more monstrous. A Wendigo then bursts out of Frank's body, leaving him as merely a husk of flesh and bone. The scene changes to classmate Clint Owens trying to bully Lucas on his way home from school, who earlier harassed him at school because Lucas was putting dog feces in his backpack. During this scene, now transformed into the Wendigo, Frank viciously attacks Clint unexpectedly. Viewing this, Lucas flees home to find his brother, Aiden, missing and Ellen Booth ripped apart on the floor. After the disappearance of Ellen and Clint, Julia tries to convince her brother Paul that it might be connected to Frank Weaver. Paul and his deputy, Daniel LaCroix, visit Frank's house but leave after finding no one home. Due to her curiosity and suspicion, Julia goes back to Weaver's house alone, where she finds Ellen's car and discovers her body inside. Paul and the police also find the unusual husks of Frank's human body while Aiden is nowhere to be found. Lucas is taken to the hospital to be treated for malnourishment and physical abuse. Paul argues with Julia over her impulse to become Lucas's guardian while his case gets sorted. Paul and Julia take Lucas's drawings to Stokes. Stokes shows the antlers he took from the mine as he takes out a book detailing the indigenous people's legend of the Wendigo, who came to life after a man from long ago tasted human flesh, turning him into a monstrosity. The Wendigo jumps from host to host and can only be killed as it tried to feed. Paul finds the Wendigo tale to be too fantastical to believe as an explanation for the brutal deaths. After Lucas is discharged from the hospital, Julia and Paul bring him to their house. Julia tells Lucas that his father died, but Lucas claims that his dad was reborn and that as long as he is fed, Frank will love him again. Lucas adds that Frank will come to take him to mine along with his brother Aiden. The suspense continues when noises lead Daniel to investigate the shed outside the Meadows house when Dan finds Aiden in a box looking sicker and more infected. Suddenly, the Wendigo impales Dan with its antlers and kills him from behind. Paul rushes in responses to Dan's call and is attacked and slammed into the wall by the Wendigo before it pierces his arm. As Julia helps her brother recover, Lucas follows Aiden and the Wendigo back to the mine. Julia takes Paul's gun to go after Lucas and Aiden. Julia drives to the mine where the Wendigo has taken the boys, where she finds the creature feeding on a bear with the boys near it. She confronts the creature to save the two boys. Having a change of heart about what happened to his father, Lucas helps Julia fight the monster, but she is wounded. Lucas helps fight it by sticking an active flare stick on its side. Julia stabs the beast repeatedly until she can pull its heart out. Julia and Lucas observe Aiden undergoing his transformation into the next Wendigo, who begins glowing red as Frank did before turning. Lucas insists Aiden is merely sick, while Julia tries to convince him that it's too late to save his brother. Although Lucas doesn't want Julia to do it, he has no choice, and with great remorse, she stabs Aiden to prevent its transformation. Lucas loses both his father and brother, causing him lifelong trauma. The next morning, Julia tells Paul that she will look after Lucas for the time being, and Paul uneasily agrees with her. While Julia walks away with the boy, Paul starts to cough. His cough becomes persistent to finally reveal black bile, indicating that the curse has passed on to him, and the movie ends here. I hope you enjoyed the recap. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any of the interesting recaps that we bring for you. Thank you.